Thank you all for turning up remotely, and I hope this is only the first in a long series of In Conversations that we're going to have. But very lovely to start at the top with the chair. So I'm going to first of all ask Richard a bit about his background, like, you know, your family history, you know, where you grew up, etc. So do you want to tell us a bit about that?
Okay. I was brought up not far really from where I am now in Neasden, and lived there for all my childhood. Ended up at Kilburn Grammar School, those happy days. My family were originally they came turn of the last century, as so many did, from Russia, and I was brought up with a shadow of a family who were quite religious, Jewish, but I myself was, my immediate family was not at all religious. We sort of had to hide the bacon from my aunt when she came round, that sort of thing.
Pretty normal for the course, yeah.
Yeah, pretty cool. And I went to university in Sussex. That give you some idea?
Well, I was just going to ask you if at school you had a particular leaning towards Shakespeare. I know you did Macbeth for O-level. I do remember that from our get-togethers.
Yes.
And I wondered if you really took to Shakespeare then and had him on your back burner for a long time.
I liked Shakespeare. I mean, I didn't have such an important, what should I say? I started. Sorry, I'm distracted by the way I've got this. I started Shakespeare fortuitously when I was naughty when I was 11, and a very intelligent English teacher gave me as my punishment that I had to learn Once More Unto the Breach, Dear Friends.
Okay.
For a couple of days' time, and I did, and I loved that. And then, yes, I was lucky that my English teacher managed, I don't know if it was him really or me, but I was enthused by the Shakespeare at school. But it wasn't the be all and end all of everything.
Right.
And I loved doing Macbeth, and I learnt quite a bit of it at the time. But that was the end of it. My true love then was mathematics and science, physics especially.
Is that what you read at Sussex?
It's what I did for A-level, and it's what I read at Sussex, yes. Wow. I read mathematical physics.
Gosh, okay.
Looking back, it all seems very, very far away and kind of clever, but I'm past that now. I just read stuff.
And then you were working, you became an actuary, didn't you?
I did. I wondered what to do with the maths, and heard about this profession which supposedly paid well. Indeed, it wasn't too bad, and thought I'd give it a try. Qualified quite quickly in an insurance company, and after about 4 years there, a year after qualification, I moved to a consultancy, and in various consultancies, I worked on pensions, giving corporate pensions advice to companies and trustees for the whole of the next 40-something years.
Okay, and was this in the city? Because I know you are a free man of the City of London. I've seen the proof of that in your hallway, so I wonder how that came about.
It was in this, well, it was near the city. I was never actually in the city. I worked in variously the West End, south of the river, but close by. So I was effectively part of the city financial crowd. And the reason you see me as a free man is because I joined a livery company, the possibly the least famous livery company, the Worshipful Company of Actuaries. And in order to become a liveryman, you have to be a freeman. So it's not exactly an honour. It's just something you purchase. So long as you're halfway decent, they'll let you in.
And did you, in your leisure time, because London's such an amazing cultural place, did you go a lot to the theatre? I mean, as theatre and the arts and Shakespeare in particular, were you drawn towards that in your leisure time?
Yes, a great deal. I'm blessed with my wife Madeline, who's very keen on theatre too, and I don't know how common this is, but she largely organises my social life, and I found we went a lot to the theatre. And yes, I would choose by choice if there was a well-reviewed Shakespeare, let's go and see it. So we would go, so many here, to the old Vic in the old days and pay sixpence or whatever it was. I'm sure it's more than that, but seems like that in retrospect. And the RSC at the Barbican, they remember that. Their happy home there till it broke up. I could never remember when I went to the theatre who I'd seen. I was hopeless at. I can remember Simon Russell Beale somehow. He's like a presence these last
ubiquitous
decade or so. But bar that, it was few people. I didn't go for the stars. I went for the theatre.
Right.
And what I found was an increasing love for the depth of Shakespeare. I once went to a production by Peter Hall, and his daughter, Rebecca Hall, was starring in what's If Music Be the Food of Love, whatever that play is.
Gosh, play on.
Yeah, play on. Well,
isn't it Midsummer
Twelfth Night? It's Twelfth Night.
Okay.
So I remember being in the stalls and her emerging and asking, what country is this? And just thinking, I couldn't be happier than I am now. It's the perfect place for me. It's a sort of personal heaven.
Good. Did you go much up to Stratford-on-Avon?
Very little, actually. No, we probably been 3 times.
Right.
Not much more. Because there's no particular need. Most of the good productions in Stratford came down to the Barbican or subsequently to other theatres in London. And that was a lot easier. It was lovely when we did go, it becomes a little holiday, but not necessary generally.
So the sort of love of Shakespeare was developing alongside the rest of your life, work and family. It was, yeah.
Well, yes, it's important to understand my love of Shakespeare, to understand the context, which was years ago, I took up a study in philosophy, and the sorry, I'm just checking. I need to. That's fine. That introduced me to a world of reflection, a world of perhaps Eastern philosophy, particularly, and meditation. And I found that Shakespeare contained within it a lot of the same principles and ideas. So alongside the enjoyment of Shakespeare per se, I was more and more seeing in it a reflection of what seemed to me absolute values in life.
Can you give some examples? Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Well, the essence of philosophy, at least the essence of Greek philosophy, was said to be to know yourself. And famously, Polonius gives the same idea in Hamlet, to thine own self be true. But much more than that, because Polonius is a bit of an old dodderer, really. Hamlet, in the same play, talks about the nature of man, and he can see that he has a great problem with it, but still he's a very intelligent chap in the play, and he says, what a piece of work is a man, how noble in reason, how excellent in how infinite in faculties, and so on, in form and moving, how like an angel, in apprehension, how like a god. That is what I think shows man's potential. And Shakespeare shows it in so many different ways. One of the big steps that I felt I made was I gave a talk about self-knowledge in Shakespeare, and that led me to see that the plays are full of references to self-knowledge, either knowing yourself or not knowing yourself. I mean, Macbeth says, to know my deed, 'twere better not know myself. Lear's daughters say that he but seldom, something like he did but slightly know himself. That was his problem. And you find this dotted through. Of course, there is a danger here. If you want to find a particular point of view in Shakespeare, you'll find it. Yeah. And the question is, what's true and what's not? Well, I happen to believe that that particular theme is true, relevant, and as well as talking in grand ways, he shows in particular how a person can know themselves better and can develop. So you see the problems to avoid in, let's say, the tragedies. You see the great qualities, well, in many of the plays that some of the actors have. I've been asked to give a talk to do with patience from this same philosophy school, actually. And in, if you want to find examples of patient characters in Shakespeare, like, say, Kent in Lear, or Paulina in A Winter's Tale, it becomes much more than a theoretical exercise in what is patience. Look and see what the character does and says, and it enlightens the whole subject, as well as being beautiful speech. So that connection.
Shakespeare and philosophy were sort of developing alongside. I presume you were still working when you were.
Oh yes, I was still working.
Yeah, I mean, it seems as if it became more and more important to you. And
there was a particular point where I'd been away with some friends from the philosophy, and we they pointed me towards a book not been published for 50 years, which in its time was quite popular, but had long since ceased to be of interest academically. a book called The Shakespearean Ethic. And modern academia would rather decry the idea of Shakespeare having a particular ethic, particular concept of what's right and wrong, if you like. It's all much looser than that, and well, perhaps more of that later. But when I read this book, I thought, yeah, that's, he's really understood and helped me understand better the direction that Shakespeare can provide. And I should say that's not the main thing about Shakespeare, in a sense. It's, you go to see Shakespeare play to see a play. But I didn't change the fact that I was studying it from this perspective, and so I helped to get the book republished.
Oh, marvellous, right.
And
has it sold well? Has it taken off again?
It's not taken off, but it has sold about 1,000 copies. So for a fairly academic work, that's pretty good. And it was following that I thought, well, I better start giving some talks to spread the word, as it were.
To whom did you give the talks initially?
Well, initially the philosophy school, and it was because of that, or partly because of that, that I was able to blag my way onto a master's course.
Sure, more than blag. And what were you doing this through London University, or what institution were you attached to?
Do you mean the masters or the work before?
The philosophy and the master.
Oh, no.
The same. They were different.
Philosophy has nothing to do with academia as such. No, but the masters, when I retired, I had time to plan, and I thought, what am I going to do? And one way to fill the next couple of years seemed to be to find out why, well, in particular, why this sort of concept that the book uses was so unpopular in academia. And although the last thing in English I did was O-level, I was really interested in doing a master's because it seemed to give greater freedom and depth. And I found this course at the Royal Holloway, which it's unusual to find a Shakespeare course which just does Shakespeare, not comparative early modern plays or anything like that, or the history of it. Just studies Shakespeare. That's what I wanted. That's what I found. And I spent a happy couple of years doing that.
What was your thesis for your MA? What part of Shakespeare did you research particularly?
Well, I should say that being a taught MA, the thesis wasn't really a thesis. It was a long dissertation.
Right.
But the subject I chose was the sun in Shakespeare.
Okay.
Sun, moon, that sort of sun. And I called it More Light, which is a quote from Hamlet. So I showed how Shakespeare portrayed the sun in his plays, how he used it to illustrate emotion and character. So, for example, Richard II is very much portrays himself as the sun. It was almost like the Sun King. And not conversely, but at the other end of the spectrum, you've got Romeo and Juliet, which ends, the sun for shame will not show his head, because it's all so terrible. But Juliet, on the other hand, is famously portrayed as the sun. But soft, what light on yonder window breaks? It is the east, and Juliet is the sun.
Oh, it sounds fascinating,
I
actually.
found it was also a bit of a cheat because it was easy just to go on through the plays until I got my 15,000 words.
Hmm.
There's lots of references to the sun.
Did you, along with this developing love, really, one could say, of Shakespeare, how did you feel when the Globe opened? Did you, in London, did you think, oh, marvellous, I can now go and, you know, see without sophisticated scenery, this is much nearer to what Shakespeare would have, you know, the O, the great O, etc., etc. Did you find that very satisfying?
Um, well, to be perfectly honest, I have no recollection of the Globe opening, but I went plenty of times, and yes, I did. Well, it was a different experience.
Mm-hmm.
I think, and I'm hardly alone in this, that Shakespeare is infinitely adaptable.
Mm.
And I heard Dominic John Gould the other week. He was being interviewed, and among other things, he thought that Shakespeare produced on the modern stage, where the audio, the stage is brightly lit and at the center of attention, the audience is dark, quiet, and completely abstracted from the action. And he thought that was quite wrong, not what Shakespeare intended, not how it was in the days before, and hence his love of having been artistic director at the Globe for many years. But I don't really go along with that. I think it works brilliantly with the right direction in any kind of theatre, in any kind of setting. And yes, the Globe is one of them, and it's terrific to be close to the action, not to have too many props, to see all the plays in the same setting, the same backdrop, because they can't change it. It's great fun. It's like being a member of a club. And Dominic John Gould's big thing was the audience are lit as well, so you're part of it, which never really occurred to me. But yes, you know, you said, well, I mostly sit. Slightly older now, but you're looking down on the groundlings, and they are sort of as much in view as the play itself, which is quite fun. We don't really get back to Shakespearean times with people touting themselves around and selling wares and going in and out as they like. I think we should get back to a theatre where, frankly, if you want to pop out, buy an ice cream and come back, you can do it. It's a bit too stilted.
A bit too formal for you.
Yeah.
Of course, the word audience people came to hear, didn't they? We're so obsessed with not having a view that's impaired, whereas, of course, the word audience means to listen, which, you know, is what Shakespeare's audience presumably were there for, is to listen to the words.
I'm sure they were. I'm pretty sure that in some of the plays as well, they were pretty raucous as well.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm sure Henry V stirred them up.
Yeah.
Falstaff.
Did you ever feel a regret? Because this obviously is such a wonderful passion for you. Do you feel, looking back, that you wished you'd gone into Shakespeare as a youngster, maybe gone to university, read, you know, done a literature course and had a working life in Shakespeare, where you've got a second time round working life in Shakespeare, but maybe a first time round working life in Shakespeare?
Not a bit. Not a bit. No, I think life has been terrific. I've really enjoyed my time as an actuary. I love numbers and the people I work with and the thing I was doing. I thought it was useful. And now I feel blessed to have this opportunity to take up an entirely new direction with an entirely new, almost entirely new group of people, to find new friendships, to find people who like what I do for entirely different reasons. People who can share my passion and give me their own. You know, it's not one way at all. No, it seems to me, you know, life's a long life, and to have it in several parts makes a lot of sense to me.
A few incarnations, not just one.
Yes.
And when did you join U3A when you retired? I mean, how did all this come about?
Not when I retired. When I finished the course, the masters, I was somewhat wondering what I was going to do with it, if anything, because commonly for people who are not doing it for professional reasons, that's it. I mean, you might go on to do a PhD, but I was neither qualified to do it nor had the inclination to do it. I was clearly not going to be working in the theatre. So what could I do? And then I heard, I still don't remember quite how, but I guess in those days, Jack was pretty good at getting the word around that a new U3A was being set up. And I thought, well, that's for me, because I'd love to study Shakespeare now, but I want to lead the group rather than be led, which is slightly self-aggrandizing, but I had a way I wanted to do it, and a message, not a message I wanted to give, but the ability to share my thoughts. And I thought I could do it, and I was used to running meetings. So I rushed to take the opportunity. There were two of us initially who were offering a Shakespeare course, but the other potential tutor fell away. And a few people on that first open day expressed an interest. We began, it worked well, and it's developed from there.
And do you feel, in a way, you're teaching it, or you're helping people understand? How would you describe your role? I mean, it's terrific, because I'm lucky enough to be in one of your groups, but it very much brings out what the group are thinking as well as you. I mean, it's very collaborative, I would say, with you as leader. Is that how you envisaged it?
Yes. I had indeed envisaged it as collaborative, as you put it. I'm not sure from the beginning that I had such a clear idea about how it would work, but I certainly, it was never the intention that I would be there teaching Shakespeare, and that would be unreasonable and pretentious. But that I was able to direct attention to what I thought was important. And anybody here who's in my groups knows that I think the text is what matters. And it's surprising how many people will spend happy hours, days, a lifetime thinking about Shakespeare without having too much worry about exactly what the text says. And to be fair, you know, you can take the stories and find lots in them without having to worry about the text. But within the confines of a fairly strict conformity, well, attention on the text, I wanted it to be free. I wanted it to be friendly, enjoyable, and I was sure that there was lots to learn from everybody. And the more I do this, the more I find that. And it doesn't mean that somebody, you know, people have to come with either with preset ideas or themselves see something brilliant. They may do, and people do. I think some of the things people have spotted, as it were, while we're studying, I just think, wow, yeah, I've never seen that. That's really exciting. But just asking questions very often so the way we work, well, you know this, Eleanor, but anybody who doesn't know it, we pick a play, and we simply read through piece by piece, and we don't allocate parts, because I think that leaves people out too much. We simply read the next speech, next person around the room or in the zoom around the picture, around the screen, reads, and we'll stop, and I'll say, how was that, or what do you think about that, or can somebody tell me what went on sometimes, and we'll discuss it and go back to the text, and in that, questions are just as important as answers. So often we've read a passage, we've discussed it, and I think, well, let's cover that, and then somebody said, just where it says cat of the adage or something, whatever it may be, what's that about? Oh, yes, you're right. What is that about? Oh, I see. Or maybe I don't, but between us as a group, we'll then let that open up, and that seems to me a feature of really great work, a work of art. It's concentrated, and it's a source rather than the whole answers, that somehow within it you've got concentrated knowledge, and it's our job to tease it out.
Sort of multifaceted in a way.
Absolutely, yes.
And it sounds, listening to you, that you're getting as much, not as much, but a lot of personal development out of running the groups. I mean, it's stimulating for you too, it sounds like.
Yes, it is. Otherwise I wouldn't have developed it to the extent I have. And that's ultimately why, and you mentioned that at the beginning that I am chair as well, and that's why I said yes one day, because I felt I'd had such a wonderful opportunity within the U3A to do this, that it's fair to give something back outside of the Shakespeare.
So you're enjoying being the chair? I mean, that's been, I mean, it's not been that long yet, but it's working for you.
It's okay. It's a job.
I think that's guarded. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's very enjoyable, and I'm blessed with terrific trustees who have taken on all sorts of jobs, like, for example, you have, and that makes it possible, for one thing, and also at times very enjoyable. But it would be wrong to say it wasn't hard work sometimes, and sometimes a headache. So yeah, let's concentrate on the Shakespeare.
Blessing. I know that we've got a lot of participants. We've actually got 33, and people will be wanting to ask some questions. But I wanted to ask you whether, what is your favourite genre of his plays? Do you have histories or tragedies or comedies, or where do you mostly?
Well, I suppose I developed on the tragedies, and it's within the tragedies that you find the greatest depth, the greatest philosophy, the most powerful speeches. One of the groups is looking at Macbeth, and astonishing power of speech in that play. Say the same about Hamlet, of course. Amazing speeches. So you could say that's a favorite, but I think, I found great joy in the histories and the comedies. And that's one of the pleasures of studying it year on year. And now we've been going 4 or 5 years, the first group I took here. And we're working our way through, and we're studying some plays which perhaps I thought I didn't know very well. But the comedies are funny. And the histories are mostly not histories. I say mostly, there are some I don't know, but in particular, the Henriade, although it's a history, a collection of plays, Richard II through Henry IV and Henry V, it's also very much the story of the development of a person, from the sort of fall to the resurrection, as it were. So I think the history goes well beyond history, and they too have some fantastic speeches. So I'm not sure I like the idea of favourites, really. People used to say, "What's your favourite play?" And I came to the answer that it's like asking, "Which is your favourite child?" Even if you have one, you never disclose it. So.
Well, and also sometimes I believe The Merchant of Venice is termed a comedy because it works out all right, whereas a lot of people would see it as a tragedy as well. I mean, it can be more than one thing, can't it?
Well, I'm very pleased you raised The Merchant of Venice, because that is a comedy. And in order to understand it, or to get reasonably close to understand it, you have to understand that it's comedy. It is it's not exactly very funny, but it's a laugh. It's written as a laugh. It's written as much more a pantomime than a tragedy. And if you don't understand that, then it all becomes terribly heavy. That's a considerable shortening of a whole hour's talk, but yeah, that's how I'd see it.
Okay. And do you feel that, I always feel if Shakespeare alive today, he'd be writing for the cinema. He is so cinematic, and his plays do very well. I think they're wonderful in the cinema. Do you feel that? Or do you think he's a theatre man?
I don't know. As I said before, I see his works as infinitely adaptable. And of course they work well in the cinema. There have been some brilliant productions, and not just the English ones. I mean, the adaptations in Japanese, in Russia, of King Lear. Oh, wonderful. I think any question that begins, what would Shakespeare do or think, is fraught with danger. We know what he wrote. That's all we know.
I think now I'm conscious of time moving on, and we've got about just under 20 minutes left. And I wondered if there are any people who would like to ask questions. If you would like to ask Richard a question, you have to unmute yourself as a start. And secondly, either put your hand up, or through the reactions button, you can put an electronic hand up. You can raise your hand. Is there anybody who would like to ask Richard anything? A deadly silence.
No, Alan Jutes would like to ask something.
Good.
Yes. Have you read This is Shakespeare, How to Read the World's Greatest Playwright by Emma Smith? I think it's a collection of essays that she gives as a lecturer at Oxford. I found it wonderful. I wondered what you thought of it.
Sadly, I can't tell you, because no, I haven't read it. I have read extracts from it, and I've read a number of things that Emma Smith has written. Yes, it's. I mean, she's a great Shakespearean academic, and one who communicates well. But was there anything in particular in that collection which struck you?
It was Hamlet, and in particular learning about Shakespeare's son Hamnet. And then, of course, it was followed by the Maggie O'Farrell novel, Hamnet, which I was very glad that I'd read the Emma Smith beforehand. So I think those were the two connections.
Yes, I thoroughly enjoyed Hamnet, even though it's entirely fictitious, as it has to be, really. And I suppose, as I say, one of the reasons I took up the masters was to find out how academia thinks about Shakespeare, and it was very enlightening and very helpful, and you know, it really widened and deepened my understanding and knowledge of Shakespeare. But I still feel that, well, I feel that enormous amount of attention goes to the fringes, as it were, rather than the core. And when you read the text, you're reading the core, and it's pointing very directly to understanding what the characters are, what the play's about, and indeed wider philosophical views in the text. And a lot of academic work goes beyond that, partly because the text has been sort of mined and explored and played again and again. So there is a feeling that, you know, it's been there, done that. Well, I don't think one's ever been there and done that. That's not to decry the likes of Emma Smith. I think she's terrific. It's just one can really understand Shakespeare in depth without understanding all that can be discovered by the application of, well, an application to the history of the times and thought of the times, for example.
Thank you.
I'm delighted to see that Valerie Jablon has joined us. I know you've got a very packed life at the moment, Valerie. Have you unmuted yourself?
I have now.
Good.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm dying to ask Richard. I was across the road from you at school at Bronsbury and Kilburn High School.
Oh, really?
I'm older than you. I'm older than
when.
everybody. I was there from 1943. And I've told you about the wonderful English teacher I had there, whose brother was a very famous Shakespearean actor. And she gave me an absolute love of Shakespeare from the age of 10. And the funniest version I've ever seen of Romeo and Juliet, which isn't meant to be a comedy, was at your school. And of course, at Kilburn, we were never allowed to meet, the boys' school on one side of the road and the girls' school on the other. And we used to have single-sex plays. I will never forget Norrie Norell, the boy who played the part of Juliet at your school, who, when he died, was lying on the couch with his big black shoes sticking out at the bottom. And many years later, we were both barristers in a London Crown Court. There he was again, and I embarrassed him by reminding of him when he spoke, when he played the part of Juliet. So he must have been before your time.
Oh, well before my time, yes.
Yes.
And
yes.
let me say that you'll be glad to know that things moved on apace after you left.
Yes.
And we did do plays with the girls' school.
Good. Yes, that was good. There was something in Stratford. Strangely enough, in the Times on Saturday, they had a reference to Ian McKellen as Romeo, and I couldn't remember who was the Juliet. It was Francesca Annis, and Ian McKellen was the most unsuitable Romeo I've ever seen. He was absolutely unconvincing. He was too old. He just didn't feel it. And I was so disappointed. It was all I could do to leave halfway. Oh, Simon Freeman. I don't know Simon Freeman. Yes, Norrie Norell was his head of chambers. It's definitely a small world.
But was this in Romeo by Ian McKellen? Was that recent or long ago?
No, it was donkey's years ago.
Oh, right, yes. Because
it was in the 1970s.
age is no barrier for Ian. if I may so allude to
I know,
him.
because
He's now doing his Hamlet thing.
Yes, no, it was in the 1970s. I just found him terribly unconvincing. And he didn't feel as if he meant it. And there was a time at Stratford, I won't take too much longer because other people want to speak. There was a time at Stratford when I think it was it Terry Hand's time, when everything had to be different. They were so busy trying to be original that they were mouthing their words rather than, you didn't feel that they had those thoughts and feelings and let them out, that they were saying them. And I've found some very disappointing performances for a few years, 70s.
Thanks, Valerie. I think that's why I hold Simon Russell Beale in such reverence,
Oh, he's
because
wonderful.
I have the impression, perhaps slightly less so lately, but for many years, that when he spoke his lines, they were coming out fresh. This was,
Yes.
it hadn't occurred to him before, and now he'd realised, oh, what a piece of work is a man.
Yes.
You know, it was a new revelation, and he was telling us what he was thinking. And many actors, you don't really get that.
No, when I was 12, I used to love giggling about what a piece of work is a man. Then I was 12.
When you were 12.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
Adam.
you very much, Valerie. Is there anybody else who's, I can't see any other electronic hands up, but it would be is Angela?
It's Angela here. Just a question of pronunciation. If we'd seen a Shakespeare play in Stratford, what would their accent have been? Would there have been Midlands, Northern, more Northern than the London actors? Would there be...
Well, you mean in Shakespeare's time?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, firstly, I don't think you'd have seen a Shakespeare play in Stratford unless it was performed by actors from London who were travelling. It was all London-based. But their accent then, reputedly, was somewhat like a Midlands accent now,
Yeah,
or more like that. So you can get some sense of this by the rhymes that don't rhyme now, and they must have rhymed then. I'm sure Shakespeare wasn't contrary enough to throw in a few false rhymes. And there is a small school of thought that says we should be listening to it in that original tongue, but I don't hold to that really. We need to understand it. That's the main thing.
Okay.
Richard, how do you feel about magic realism, or that's what I'm calling it in Shakespeare, you know, forests and fairies, and there's a lot of fantasy. I mean, you could even say the witches in Macbeth are fantasy. I mean, he's sometimes in a bit of a twilight world, and I wonder how you feel about that. I'm calling it magic realism, but I don't know that that's the official name for it.
That's an interesting question. I've never quite considered that. I just rather take it for granted. You see, I think that, and this is perhaps stretching the grounds of credulity, but I think Shakespeare could see things that we don't easily see. He takes us to a world which is different to our normal world. Even in the normal speech in a Shakespeare play, it somehow lifts one up a level. So you enter into, by just listening to the words, as long as you understand the meaning, which might take a bit of study, one enters into this, you might call it a higher world. I would certainly think of it like that. And part of that is the world of nature, with which he was plainly immensely connected. When I wrote about the sun, but there's also the living world, which he describes so vividly and beautifully. His descriptions of sunrise are stunning. Well, It doesn't come to mind, but he can take you to this natural world, and I think somehow he's showing in this what you call magic realism an element, and you might say it's element of our potential, our subconscious, or maybe it's something fairly real that is beyond the everyday, which shows a magical side to life. And life is not prosaic. You know, life is actually magical. The ability to speak is magical, and we take it for granted. So in creating fairies who can do wonderful things, perhaps he was reflecting a side of life that we normally ignore. And it gives such wonderful scope for directors as well. I saw a production of Midsummer Night's Dream at Kew Gardens recently. Brilliant, such fun, and with the backdrop of the tall trees lit by multicolored lights, the whole thing seemed to come alive. And Shakespeare had that, you know, within him, and he could express it in a way that nobody else has ever been able to do.
Of course, Regent's Park can be like that as well, actually. It can.
Yes.
Have you studied his sonnets at all? Because he wrote lots of sonnets, and some of the poetry is sublime. I wondered if you'd read those as well or studied them.
Yes, yes, we had a small section of the master's course was given over to the sonnets, but I've always loved the sonnets, so I've learnt a few. I think it's very powerful if you can learn a sonnet, and then it becomes, you have access to it in a way that's rather special compared to just reading, although just reading it is also fantastic. And we, particularly with the group that's longer standing, we will occasionally take time out, and we will for your group too, Eleanor, in between plays to look at the sonnets. So again, they have an ability to express emotion, connection, and to make you wonder about the nature of things. Well, there's one sonnet which I think is a great sort of thing to cheer one up. Although I remember at some entirely unrelated meeting, I started reciting this sonnet, and the person in charge said, "Oh no, we want a happy thing," because it begins, "When in despair with fortune and men's eyes, I all alone beweep my outcast state, and trouble deaf heaven with my bootless cries, and look upon myself and curse my fate, wishing me like to one more rich in hope, featured like him with friends possessed, desiring this man's art and that man's scope, and what I most enjoy, contented least. Yet in these thoughts, myself almost despising, haply I think on thee. Then my state, like to the lark at break of day, arising from sullen earth, sings hymns at heaven's gate. For thy sweet love remembered such wealth brings, that then I scorn to change my state with kings." Lovely.
Wow. Oh, we've had a wonderful performance as well as a conversation. Richard, you've been absolutely terrific. I think you're going to be an immensely difficult act to follow, and we might even invite you back for more Shakespeare later on in the series. But I think it's been absolutely marvellous, and your passion really does come through. I mean, it's not a sort of an assumed cloak. I think you're really, you know, if you're talking about Russell Beale delivering lines as though they come from himself, I think listening to you tonight. It's been a wonderful feeling of somebody really in tune with Shakespeare. I don't know if anybody else wants a final word. We've got about 3 minutes left. Was anybody?
Just a quickie, just a quickie. It was a moment this evening when I thought, Richard, I am very happy, as you were. I am really happy. It was a perfect moment, so thank you.
Pleasure.
There's lots and lots we could discuss, Shakespeare in modern dress, and when people bemoan the sexual confusion of gender today, I think, well, only got to go back to Shakespeare and how sexually confusing was all that gender, but maybe that's a topic for another talk. But thank you very, very much indeed for starting this off. It's been absolutely brilliant, and
Absolutely.
just say thank you.
Okay, Eleanor, thank you for having the idea. I think it's a great idea, and I look forward to future conversations.
Well, we have got already another 2 victims. David Powers is going to be speaking to us in December the 6th. So I'm looking forward to that, David. I hope you are. David's not saying anything. He's keeping mute. And
I'm quite happy, quite happy.
Quite happy, good. And we've also got somebody in January, so we've got lots of people coming forward, but thank you very much.
Oh, Madeline's got her hand up.
Ah, has someone got a hand up? Madeline, ah,
Oh, wow.
You need to unmute, Madeline.
Unmute.
unmute.
It's a clap, not a hand.
What a wonderful wife. Oh,
Stuart has his hand up.
okay, we should all give a clap. Thank you, Richard. Absolutely marvellous.
Stuart, did you want to say something?
Yes, I did, actually. Not a question, but merely a comment. My knowledge of Shakespeare was extremely limited. I had been to Shakespeare, I had enjoyed watching Shakespeare, but I had very little understanding. And in fact, when I signed up for your first group, I turned up on the open day and didn't really know what I was looking for. I just happened to be standing by your store, Richard, and you persuaded me to come along. I wanted to say a big thank you because 4 or 5 terrific years, and you've opened my eyes. So thank you.
Oh, I'm very pleased. Good.
Right, I think we'll leave on that wonderfully high note. And thanks very much to everybody who's come along this evening. And look forward to seeing you all on December the 6th.